AM 1240, 95.3 FM, WJON. Joining me now, Star Tribune sports columnist Jim Souhan. Jim's appearance being brought to you by the Green Mill of downtown St. Cloud. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Lee.
Well, the news that Vikings fans were hoping not to get, J.J. McCarthy will miss the entire 2024 season. I guess the question that I have is, what does this mean for his long-term development? Is this just kind of a bump in the road, or is this more significant?
I mean, there's no good spin here, but if he's good enough, and they think he's good enough, then it gives him a year to study the NFL, be in an NFL locker room, around NFL coaches, getting mental reps, understanding how the game is played. This is a completely different game than college. And then he'll be, at some point early next calendar year, he'll be healthy. He'll be able to go through a full offseason with an NFL team and build up to probably being the starter next year. So you can't say this is a good thing. It's not a good thing. It's better to get the physical reps, but it doesn't have to be he can come back from this, is I guess the short way I should put it. He can come back from this. He can come back and be a really good quarterback. If he was going to be a really good quarterback, this won't prevent him from eventually being a really good quarterback.
So how does this work in terms of the roster? Does he go on injured reserve and absolutely out for the year, and so they add another player? Okay, there's no opportunity to come back and practice in a limited fashion?
They're saying he's out for the year. I just don't see. And you know what? If you're on the injured list, you can practice. You can still get work in. So he's just essentially the easiest way to look at it is he's done for the year. He'll be around the team. He'll be doing he'll be doing whatever he can do physically. But really, you're looking at him getting his football work in starting the offseason.
And so sometimes teams have guys who are on injured reserve kind of stay away from the team. But in this situation, I imagine McCarthy's going to be right there, headset on the sideline, getting those mental reps, listening to the play calls, all of that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, the only variable is you don't want him to get rolled up on the sideline, so he'll probably be in a booth. Maybe he'll be in the booth with the offensive coordinators, or you just got to be really careful. Just like Chris Finch with his knee, I got to put him in a position where he's not going to get re-injured just standing on the sideline. But he'll be around the team. You're right. There have been cases where a player gets injured and they go away. Nobody wants that to be the case, and the player is not really looked upon very kindly if they just stay away from the team when they're hurt. In this case, this guy has everything to learn, and he's very smart. He's very, the team wants him around. He wants to be around. There's no conflict there.
Kind of interesting footnote. He's the first-round quarterback to miss season due to injury. So it's just kind of the hits keep coming to the Vikings. Jordan Addison left the field yesterday with what appeared to be an ankle injury. It sounds like it's not serious. Do you know anything about that?
It sounds like he will miss the rest of the preseason. You just never know with injuries. I mean, it sounds like it's not serious, but it's serious enough to keep him off the field for a couple of weeks, which is going to cost him the preseason. Who knows if he's ready for week one?
All right. Around the NFL, this question comes in a more broad perspective here. The Cleveland Browns have a defensive tackle, Mike Hall Jr., who is accused of a domestic incident where he pointed a gun at a woman's head and dragged her down the driveway. How should teams approach this type of thing? You're trying to balance due process in the legal system, but also there's a personal conduct side of this in the NFL and per team. How should the Cleveland Browns deal with this?
Most teams take the easy way out, which is to leave it to the league and the legal system. And, and I understand this is a horrific crime he's been accused of, and I don't want to see anybody who commits that kind of a crime in playing professional football or in the league. The team's position usually is, they are not jurisprudence. They are not the legal system. They can't assume guilt. The gray area here is most teams employ former FBI or police officers who really have connections within the law enforcement community and have a very good idea whether the person is guilty or not. So at some point, I would love it if one of these teams would say, Okay, he did it. It doesn't matter that he says he didn't do it. All of our information indicates he did do it. We don't want anybody who did that around our team, even if he might get off on a technicality or he might win his legal case. That's what I would love to see. It just doesn't happen. And, from a black and white perspective, I understand it because, it's hard to deny somebody employment until they've been proven guilty. But I just, it's sickening. I would like to see a team take a stand one someday.
Reverting back to the Vikings for a minute, I had a colleague who wanted me to ask you, do you suspect the Vikings will just run with Sam Darnold, Nick Mullins, and Jaren Hall, or do you think they're going to go out and look for maybe a Ryan Tannehill type to come in and back up Sam Darnold?
I would like to see them use this year as a good, I'll be honest. Now, they're obligated to try to win. And Darnold right now, having been in camp all summer and going to get plenty of reps the rest of the way here, it probably gives them their best chance to win. I'm not high on Nick Mullins, and Jaren Hall was a disaster last year. So, why not take this year to try out some different people? Maybe you find your backup in the future to work with J.J. McCarthy in the future. And maybe it's Darnold. Maybe it is Darnold. But I don't see a long future here for Mullen or Hall. So if you can bring in somebody who actually can play the position and might be a good backup in the future, might even help you win some games this year, I'd take the shot.
Do they have the cap money to bring in a veteran like a Tannehill?
Usually there's a way to do it. I know fans always worry about the salary cap, and yet when was the last time the Vikings didn't sign a player because they didn't have enough money? They always find a way. I do a podcast with Jeff Diamond, the former Vikings general manager, and he explains in great detail how Rob Brzezinski and the Vikings find a way to get the players they actually want. So if they really wanted somebody like Ryan Tannehill, they'd find a way to make it work. If they don't want the player, then they might pretend it's the salary cap to keep them from doing it. But if they really wanted him, they could find a way to make it happen.
Taking a look at the NFC North as a whole, is Chicago going to be that vastly improved team? Caleb Williams looked good, I guess, in his first preseason debut. But, are the Vikings at risk of finishing last in the division?
They're in serious risk finishing last in the division. They are. They're in bad shape. This team is supposed to be a high-octane passing team that plays well enough on defense and runs the ball well enough to support that. And now they're going to be probably a subpar passing team. We don't know that they're going to be a better running team, even though there's the chance of that with Aaron Jones in camp. And the defense, theoretically should be better, but we don't know how much Harrison Smith has left. You don't have Daniil Hunter anymore. And, it's Grenard and Ginkel and Turner really going to put on a serious pass rush for this team to cover up its weaknesses at corners. So this team very easily could finish last. Now, I don't, it's always easy to project that I think the Bears have to be better. I think Caleb Williams is going to be better than Fields. They've dramatically upgraded their receivers. They tend to be able to run the ball. So I think the Bears are going to be a threat. You just never know how quickly all of that can come together.
Jordan Love got that huge contract. Did he do enough in that 1 year to kind of satisfy your thoughts on him being a franchise quarterback?
Probably. And if you're the Packers, you've been all in on this guy all along. You spent the draft pick on him. You spent the time building him up. You finally get him out there, and he ends up playing great down the stretch and in playoff games. You probably don't need to see much more. And once again, back to the salary cap thing. I know fans always worry about money spent on players. The ability in the NFL these days to turn things around after you've had a bad quarterback or a bad season or a bad stretch is remarkable. You're always one quarterback and one coach away from being competitive. So if Jordan Love turned out to not be that guy, well, then they'll flip the script. They'll go find another quarterback. They'll start over. You might as well invest in a talented young quarterback and just hope he's going to be good enough. And if he's not, well, you had to take the shot with him anyway.
Do you subscribe to the fact of being the hunter versus being the hunted when talking about the Detroit Lions? Last year, they kind of took the league by storm. And this year, people know they're good. And so it's going to be a bigger challenge for them to get back to the NFC Championship game.
I don't know if it's the a lot of people like to talk about emotions. I don't know that it's like, oh my God, people are going to be coming after him this year. I don't think it's that. I think that usually winning teams have the pressure of expectations, and they have people who now want to get paid because they've proved themselves, and they can get a little distracted by that, and they tend to play tougher schedules because that's the way NFL does things. I think those things make it more difficult. Also, most teams coming off really good, surprising years tended to have good injury luck, and injury luck isn't something you count on year after year. So I just think there are more variables in your way when you get to this stage. I think they're really good. I think what they do is really sound. I would be surprised if they fell apart, but we do see regression. Every year, about half the playoff teams don't make the playoffs. I mean, that's the way the NFL is set up. It's the way the NFL wants to function. So I think they're a good team, but that doesn't mean they're bulletproof.
Lynx back in action tonight, taking on the Mystics. I don't know if the Mystics are good or not, but Minnesota tied for atop the Western Conference standings.
Yeah, and the conferences really don't matter much in the WNBA. It's the overall standings that really matter. But I think they're tied for third overall. They're way ahead of expectations. Washington's rebuilding. They're not good at all. The Lynx should win tonight. The Lynx are completely healthy, which is a really nice thing for them. So they win tonight. They're winning about 70% of their games. Nice point differential. Their defense has been generally been pretty good. Their offense has been really good. They look like they're a good team. I still am not sure if they're one of the three of the five best teams in the league. I think the Aces are going to make a run. Seattle might make a run. Phoenix might be tough for them to beat out. So, right now they're overachieving, and now we start finding out tonight whether they're capable of continuing that.
Jim, in your opinion, is Cheryl Reeve the best coach in the WNBA?
She's a great coach, and I think you're seeing that this year. This is not as good a team. This roster should not be winning 70% of its games in this league. Is she the best coach in the league? Mike Tebow's a great coach. He's retiring. He's already retired. Brendella's a good coach. The Kinetic Sun coach is really good. Becky Hammond has won 2 straight titles. I don't know how you'd knock her off the list. I think Cheryl's a great coach. I think we all should have learned, Minnesota sports fans should have learned a lot from Tom Kelly. He won 2 World Series in 5 years with a team that didn't spend a lot of money, looked like he was the best manager in the league, and then had 8 straight losing seasons, managing the same way. So, yes, you want a good coach. You need a good coach. But there's so many other factors that are involved in winning and losing. It's not like a coach can just go out and win by themselves. Circumstances around the coach matter tremendously. So I think Cheryl's a great coach. I'm also not sure she has a roster that's going to allow her to dominate the way they've dominated so far.
Jim, unfortunately, we're out of time, but Jay will be back with you tomorrow. It's been a pleasure talking with you all week. Appreciate it.
Hey, Lee, I always enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Jim Souhan, Star Tribune sports columnist, joins us every weekday at 7:15. Jim's appearance being brought to you by Green Mill in downtown St. Cloud.